Welcome back, WrenchNation. Always an honor to hang out with you mechanical maniacs. I see you. I saw a bunch of wiper blades up on the freeway. Your windshield is streaked and we got rain in the valley and we need therapy. Let me hear some trumpets, baby. We're coming to you from the world-renowned East Valley Institute of Technology. I was being serious with you. I seen you coming off of Scottsdale 101, whether you're in the Glendale area. Aiden, get on here. Your wiper blades working?
Yes, they are. Thankfully.
We got some feedback. Adam, do you hear the feedback?
I do.
Live radio. We got something. Hey, just kick that speaker twice, maybe to go away. I don't know. All right, we'll live with the feedback. WrenchNation, if you're new to the show, we're honored to do this. Thank you. Feedback's gone. Excellent. WrenchNation, if you're just joining us for the first time, Automotive Lifestyle Show. We like to interview guests from all over the world in that matter, and as well as we try to give you the straight and skinny under hood. Sometimes we're not perfect. We're not scientists. We're not engineers. We are lowly mechanics. Aiden, get on here. I told the guy today, when you move into town, you need three things. Can you take a guess? If you move into Phoenix the first time, or Miami, or Vegas, what are the three most important things that you think you would need in regard to services?
Good doctor, good lawyer, and a good mechanic.
Look, you're trained, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh, he's trained. I wasn't expecting you to get that. I do want to get the show topic before we get into news. We're really excited. We'll cover this from time to time, at least 2 or 3 times a year. It's a common situation where your brakes squeak. You want to do the brakes, on your F-150. And like buying a pair of shoes, man, there's just so much out there and there's confusion. We are honored. And I mean this. The Godfather of Brakes is in the studio hanging with us. Dino Crescentini. He's co-founder of Dynamic Friction Company. He's been messing around with brakes, I don't know, since 1970s. I don't know. He's going to tell us. But we are going to cover on this episode what it is that causes your brakes squeak, the quality levels of brakes. Dino's going to break down the fundamentals of all things brakes in a way that, look, you're a technician listening. I know. I heard from you via Spotify or iHeart. You listen to the podcast. Be real. How many of you did the brake job? You never had a problem, and then you have that one problem squeak. And if there's anything that technicians understand is that, oh, God, this is an easy brake job. Bam, bam, bam. Until you get the comeback, the noise, the harmonics. And it's not good for your client, and they think little of you. How many of you driving right now, you've been in, oh, brakes cost me X amount of dollars, I'm going back 2 or 3 times. Aiden, you had your brakes done recently?
Not recently, but I had them in the past, yeah.
And have you had problems?
No, not after they got fixed.
See, that's a good job.
Yeah?
Yeah. You pay a decent price? You don't have to say exact. Brakes,
oh, yeah.
Brakes, and that's the thing we'll get into. Look, I go back to like retail Nordstrom's. I can buy a $10 sneaker. They're out there, right? We all know there's a difference between the price points of what we're paying. We're not saying we have to overpay, but we're going to go through the fundamentals. That magic ceramic, what is that? That magic semi-metallic, what is that? You've heard it. Oh, you need semi-metallic brake pads. Oh, we're going to give you ceramic. What does that all mean? What are the differences as between the two? Let's call that the two most popular regarding safety, performance, the noise. How does heat management work out? So we're going to bring on Dino. If you're not driving, Google it, people. Godfather of Brakes. Don't be doing that while you're driving. We're going to cover some news. Catalytic converters. Some of you have had your catalytic converter stolen. Never knew you had one. You woke up in the morning and your car was a loud noise. Like you heard it just obnoxiously loud, like What is happening? Is that my engine? Is my engine going to blow? Your catalytic converter was stolen. Yes, crackheads are stealing catalytic converters. It's a big problem. They get money on the black market for that. I will tell you, finally, legislation is easing its way. We just moved out of what they call the Congressional Subcommittee February 10th. It's going to go to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce for what? To legislate the Preventing Auto Recycling Theft, or PART. This act would give law enforcement tools to trace stolen catalytic converters. Now, what does that mean? Well, those cats, as we call them, they disappear into the black market. They can get $300-$400. Now, why is that? Rhodium, palladium. That stuff is expensive. That's precious metals. That's up there with gold and silver. These guys want it because new cats are expensive and they're selling it on the black market. This bill would allow the professional or yourself to VIN stamp the catalytic converter. Like, you can do that now, but it's official. And the big thing I want to read back to you is that the PART Act would establish a grant program to allow dealerships. Because some of you are saying, Frank, great, I have a catalytic converter. What is that all about? Like, do I have to go to the dealer? Do I have to pay to get this stamping? This PART Act would establish a grant program to allow dealerships, repair shops, and other eligible parties. Eligible parties. I don't even know what that means. Eligible. We said dealers, independents. All right, let's get our salvage yard people. If you go to a salvage yard, we love our salvage yards. And other eligible parties. Uncle Louie, he's got 10 cars in his driveway. He's eligible, I guess. They would cover some of that expense. And that VIN that's stamped allows law enforcement to track this little lonely cat that's in the marketplace. Is it going to work? I don't know. I'm going to bring Dino on. Dino with the dynamic friction catalytic converters. You're out of Vegas. Problem in Vegas, are they still stealing cats up there?
They're stealing everything in Vegas.
Including when I was at that blackjack table, they stole my wallet. Yeah. But yeah, catalytic converters is still a thing. People are stealing these.
I bet.
Yeah. And
hopefully that legislation works.
Yeah. The bill would also increase record-keeping requirements. Anyway, it's a practical solution is what they're saying. Somebody want to know how many catalytic converters were stolen, let's just say last year. Mr. World-famous Aiden, would you like to guess how many catalytic converters stolen last year?
I would say somewhere in the 1 million range because of how often that might happen.
That's like the COVID equivalent of catalytic. That would be epidemic.
If we're talking like one specific place that's notorious for it, that number's not necessarily out of the realm. But if we're just talking in general,
a million's way out there. But I'll give you that.
That's in Chicago alone. What are you talking about?
Right? See, he's got my back.
Yeah. Approximately 27,000-ish of these cat converters were stolen, as reported last year by the National Insurance Crime Bureau. Those are serious people, those NICB people.
I'm honestly surprised it's not way out
Which
there.
Actually reflected a sharp decline from what was in 22, 64,700. Now, here's my logic. That was like post-COVID. Money was funny. Maybe. Oh, I know what it was. Dino, they were buying the fancy cars, right? They were easy targets. That's a big drop. 64. Anyway,
Wow.
Our fearless government is working their way through all that. Remind you to get on to WrenchNation.tv. Of course, the Concourse in the Hills. We had Peter Volney on. That interview's up. Of course, you missed the show. No big deal. You can catch it next year. But it's a fascinating insight to what is going on that story for Phoenix Children's Hospital, how they're raising money. I need to talk to you, Aiden. You got any funny, weird? Give me some weird news, man. It better be weird. If not, I'm kicking you out of here.
So this one goes to my Tesla Mafia family.
Oh.
China has banned the yoke-style steering wheels.
Yoke
citing safety concerns over their non-round design. So if you're thinking, when it comes to the yoke style, it's basically like this rectangle side thing. Yeah, a lot of the Tesla people, they're like, oh, I like this one. China says, no, thank you.
They've had a lot more wrecks, or
fighting it with safety concerns. Follows the recent ban on flush door handles, reflecting the country's stricter stances on automotive features. That's all I
see.
got.
That's all you got. So we went from
It's just
that-
their stance on automotive is stricter than most.
well, they got a lot of EVs. They lead the world.
Oh yeah.
BYD is a huge company, but I'm thinking like, who came up like yoke steering in vehicles? That's like reinventing the wheel. I guess that's a high end.
They
luxury.
do that in F1 cars. It's kind of
It is
race
yeah.
cars, yeah.
But if you got a little, if you're in Shanghai driving a little $15,000 EV, do you really need that? I guess this was a trend that China's not just going to make a move unless there was a major safety type issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's do we really need that? I mean, could I use that money for pinstriping? You know, the upgrade for the yoke. Give me the pinstriping. We got Lance Small in the studio. Give me the name of the company, Lance.
Tri Plus Sales.
Tri Plus Sales. For all of you listening, let's talk about the supply chain a little bit. You got manufacturers. This is for consumers driving right now. They just come into a shop and think we have parts sitting right there. It used to be, right, Dino? We'd have a lot of stuff, but not anymore.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
But you represent some really talented manufacturers, of course, DFC, and then KYB. Many
Correct.
have heard of KYB, shocks and struts.
Yep.
And we need shocks and struts in our life. Could you tell people, I'd like to, because we mentioned this, I'll just throw it out here before we take a break and bring Dino full-fledged into the whole brake topic. Shocks and struts, a lot of people will go into a garage or a service facility, a dealer, what have you, and you need shocks and struts. And they don't really, like, why? What's the big deal with shocks and struts? And why would I even need something like that?
It's not grossly obvious that they're worn out, okay? Unless they're leaking or broken, something happened to them. They fade out over time, and people get used to that sloppy ride that the vehicle now has.
It's like an aged mattress spring. We get used to that.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
just kind of get used to it,
Right.
So, and I also think at the shop level, it's kind of a bigger ticket. It's a little uncomfortable for the service rider to present replacing your shocks or struts to somebody when it's not an obvious fix.
Yeah, that seems to be, this is so true because consumers think that perhaps like the bedside manner wasn't there. But the fact is, if you can say, I can make this like new for a fraction of the cost of a new vehicle, you're restoring the ride, that's a win for the consumer.
100%. So when it comes to KYB specifically, is what I love about them is they don't do a good, better, best and change the paint job or the packaging. They restore the vehicle to its original handling and performance, or they have an upgrade when you get into truck, SUV, performance stuff.
Yeah, this is awesome. We'll probably bring on KYB in the future.
Sure.
I think it's a big need because look, the higher the estimate that you were presented, the more red flags that are raised. Let's just face it. You know, that beautiful looking mechanic you've been going to for 10 years is giving you this estimate and that like you trust, but if that price is high, let's face it, that's the reality. How we can, as an industry, do a better job in presenting more value about what is needed and kind of make that in plain English, because you driving right now, you're not getting that. All you heard is you need X amount of dollars for a repair. You need it today. And if it was really a bad experience, I wouldn't be driving with my children in the back. I've heard that. That's like ridiculous.
So what's the ticket on something like that these days? I have
mean,
no idea.
I don't know what at the shop level.
I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to restore the suspension, we're going to go with front struts,
Yep.
rear shocks. And listen, before you grill me, and I welcome your hates, get in the comments. I love you. Because the price can range, all right? And you pay for what you get. So that's my little WrenchNation disclaimer. But, that could be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. $1,500 to $2,500.
Wow.
And hug a mechanic.
It is the one thing in the vehicle.
Now,
especially-
if it's all shocks, could be less.
Yep.
I don't want to scare people, and the price can vary. If you drive a European, you put your pinkies up. You're already accustomed to it. Those visits are more money. I would rather people take away not so much, oh my gosh, that's what it cost, as to what need am I getting from this vehicle? Where am I going to be a year or two? That's important. I don't think we do a good enough job in this industry on that.
If they're going to be keeping the vehicle, it's well worth doing.
You guys,
and they notice it's like fixing your air conditioning in Arizona. You notice it immediately.
100%. It's one of those services. It's that and the decarbon service that people will call back. Why didn't you tell me about this service like 2 years ago? The decarbon, cleaning out fuel injectors and decarbing intake valve, their MPG improves. The little tip and hesitation can go away. Yeah. But when we do shocks and struts, people are like, wow, that's restoring the ride. So, yeah, we'll dedicate and have KYB on. Wrench Nation, we're going to come back. I'm going to break down. We're breaking it down. We'll break science, maybe some chemistry, maybe. Really what you want to know. We're not going to get complicated. We're going to keep it basic. Ceramic, semi-metallic, organic, the old, I don't even know if those are still around. We're going to break down the method of brakes. We're going to try to educate you. Stay tuned. Wrench Nation. MailShark is a platform offering marketing services including direct mail, customizable email templates, and automation tools. Subscription options are available on a monthly, weekly, or one-time basis. Details can be found at mailshark.com. Parts Authority is a supplier of automotive parts serving both professional mechanics and automotive enthusiasts. In addition to providing automotive components, Parts Authority supports community engagement through sponsorship of local events and involvement in automotive training and education programs. They work with manufacturers such as AC Delco, Motorcraft, Denso, and Bosch, and operate locations across the country. More information is available at partsauthority.com. Pronto National Association supports the automotive industry through programs focused on education, collaboration, and resource sharing among auto parts suppliers and professionals. Members have access to training, industry updates, and networking opportunities. Learn more at prontonet.com. Right on. Welcome back, Wrench Nation. A big thank you, my high desert folks, California Saturday, for hanging with us on the radio. And yes, you guys know you can get into the comments, wrenchnation.tv. Love your show ideas. If you got a rock star in the automotive community doing some great things, we got an open mic, man. We're not fancy. A lot of you will experience a very common type of repair, right? You get your oil changes, the air filters and the cabins, and maybe you got a tune-up. But you know very well you're gonna have to get a brake job because brakes don't last forever. Some of you wish that. And then depending on the type of driving you're doing, you're saying, holy cow, I just had brakes 2 years ago. Now I need brakes again. We've got Dino Crescentini, co-founder of Dynamic Friction Company, leader in the advanced brake technology, from rotors to brake pads to hardware, you name it. Dino, it's always an honor to have you. You come in from Vegas to hang with Wrench Nation.
I sure did, and I'd drive farther than that to come be with you, Frank.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. We love our brakes. All right, so let's go back into history. Before we get into like the brake materials, and give us a little history. Like people want to know, Dino, why brakes? How long you been doing it? What's the passion that drives you behind all this madness?
Well, I've been doing this since the Auto Specialty days, which was founded in 1982. Yes, I'm that old. And then, that led to, after the sale of that company, I started a company called Centric Parts and StopTech, which is a performance division, performance and racing. And then that was sold. And I know that sounds bad, but I can't help it if someone's going to come by with a wheelbarrow of money. What are you going to do?
Hey, if you're listening, man, you got a price too. Don't worry. Everybody's got their price. It's all good.
But I promise this is the last time I'm going to be doing this in terms of the brake business. And so in 2015 actually, got board, formed with some other guys, the R1 boys, R1 Concepts. They're a performance braking company. So we merged together and formed Dynamic Friction Company, DFC.
And DFC's been around, what now?
Since 2016, I'd say, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been
I didn't realize that.
Quite a while, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the straight and skinny. A lot of people are driving. They have a brake squeak. Some of them are reluctant to come into the garage. They heard brakes, and they hold off on it. The brakes go to grind. Can you, before we get into some of the materials and the differences, what is like the number one cause to new brakes installed and a squeak thereafter? Because people are listening now, and they said, Frank, I love you, but I was just in a garage. I spent this money, and now my brakes are squeaking. And hit it all, because I know there's a lot of variables to that.
Well, that could be on one end of the spectrum. It could just be, frankly, just cheap materials. There's a lot of competition out there among brake manufacturers to go out and get business. And so inevitably what happens is people, they get lured in by just a lower cost. And at a certain point, you have to take things out of that friction material in order to get the price down to that price point. So that's one end of the spectrum.
It's like ingredients in anything. Like if you think that like Gucci has, and maybe Gucci's not a great example, let's just call the high-end leather bags and then the less costly, that's an ingredient. It's always about the ingredients, right?
Well,
Would you say? I mean, some of it's branding, but like
I was going to
ingredients.
say, the branding at the very high end, sometimes it's hard to justify, let's say a handbag being $5,000 and a Birkin bag or whatever is $30,000, because of the brand. So when it comes to brakes being kind of a commodity item, it's pretty much what you pay for.
Absolutely.
It's so competitive that if something's $10, it's because it has that type of material in there. If something's $20, it's because it has additional materials or features and benefits that the other one may be lacking.
Let's talk materials without getting into the whole science of it.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I'm listening. I'm saying, okay, well, I did buy a lesser cost brake, and what materials would they take out, and how does that relate to me regarding my brakes? Is that heat management issues? Are they gonna what materials? If I'm a cheapy guy, making this stuff, what material would I take out?
Well, everyone uses various materials. So let's not talk about what materials are they taking out. Let's talk about what features they may be taking out of what you're going to feel. So basically, every manufacturer knows if they have any hope of staying in business, they're going to make a product that at least will get the car down the road and hopefully not make noise. That's the primary thing that they're focused on. But certainly, you're going to give up on performance. You're going to give up on pedal feel. You're going to give up possibly on wear.
Brake distance.
No, well, brake distance, yeah,
For
that's
sure,
performance.
right?
That's what I mean by performance,
Gotcha,
but also
yeah.
wear in terms of longevity.
Right.
Is it going to go 10,000, 20,000, or 30,000 miles? If it's a cheaper pad, it's probably going to be on the lower end of the scale. So that's what I'm saying.
So squeaks emanate from sort of composition.
So then what will happen is it'll get to the point where once you get to the bottom of the pad and you're down to, let's say, the underlayer, you're going to get a squeak. So a cheaper pad will wear out quicker, and the potential for squeak is going to happen sooner because you're going to get to the point where all pads will squeak when it gets to the end of their lives.
Right. You got that little metal tab. Some of you questioning that type of squeak that may have just started for you. Let's just assume you've been driving whatever. Let's say you have a car that you just made your last payment on, and let's say you got $40,000. It's got the original factory pads. As those pad linings wear, if they're not electronic, like a lot of Euro vehicles, we'll talk about that. The squeak that you hear is a metal tab that protrudes out from the outer edge of the pad that will start contacting the rotor. Okay, there's plenty of YouTube videos on it, but just know that is what you're hearing. That's one type of squeak. I would use as an example. Hey, factory pads. Go ahead, Dino.
So I was telling you about the two ends of the spectrum. That's one end of the spectrum that could create a situation where there's noise. The other end of the spectrum, which is quality brake pad independent, is the way it was installed.
Oh, that's
You want to talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I got to be respectful. There's a lot of enthusiasts. You call me, you ask me, hey, Frank, I'm going to do my own brake job. Do you think I can get away with it? And you just watched a YouTube video that in 7 minutes taught you how to do brakes on your vehicle, and maybe, but...
Well, let me tell you this. So a couple weeks back, I was flown out to Southern California to a very busy, previously known as a very high-end shop. Okay, I'm not going to name names, of course.
Previously known.
Okay. And so this shop owner was, he contacted and asked, hey, could they send Dino out to go and make this visit? It was for a large customer, so I said, of course, okay. So I went down there, and he said, hey, could you just see how we're doing brake jobs here? Okay. And by the way, the problems he was having, he tried everything. Our products, competitive products, expensive products, OEM products. Okay, going to the dealer and getting pads from the OEMs.
And he had a high rate of comeback for squeaks.
And he just couldn't get rid of it. So I said,
qualified technicians, for the most
Well,
part, maybe. Okay, all right.
let's use that really loosely here because that was the case.
Wow.
These were not what I would call qualified technicians.
Yeah.
And so I think partly he's to blame because he wasn't, vetting these people or certainly putting them through any kind of, training process that was certainly required. Now, so I sat through a brake job, and the guy put on a brake disc completely oiled up without cleaning it. Okay, he didn't clean the contact surface on the hub. So the hub to the rotor interface was full of grime and grit.
Yeah, you got to take just for you listening, a good technician understands when that rotor comes off that spindle, that hub, there's especially back east. I mean, you guys, we need therapy out here if we see anything with rust. Keep that stuff on your side of the Mississippi. But we have to take a wire wheel or a brush. We have to make sure that mating surface allows that rotor to contact evenly. And so what you're saying is they skip that vital step.
That.
Yeah.
So this is he had done the fronts and he hadn't done the rears yet. So I'm looking at everything that he did and didn't do, and then I go to where he put the pad in. First of all, he slathered the entire pad with grease. I mean, on the back of the pad, on the side of the pad,
with grease,
and it went around the pad. He had some on the friction surface. I mean, it was a complete disaster.
Wow.
Wait, it doesn't stop there. So then he installed these pads with the old hardware. Okay, that in California, that's not such a bad thing. Is if the hardware has good tension and if it's in good shape.
Let's stop there. I want folks to know that because they're listening for the first time about brakes. Yeah. Hardware are the retaining clips and sort of dampening. Could you touch on that? We can kind of circle back to this story because I really think it's important with the hardware because the less quality do not come, and hardware should be replaced in most occasions.
In most cases, yes.
What is the problem with hardware over time if we reuse it? What do we risk?
Well, the main thing you risk is you lose the tension. The hardware actually, it's a spring, okay, stainless steel spring, and it's critical that it is stainless steel, and it creates a tension that firmly grips the pad into the caliper. Okay, so it prevents it from vibrating and from shaking around, and that could be a potential cause for noise as well. But let's say this. The fact that he didn't replace it, because I actually checked it eventually, it wasn't bad. They didn't have any new hardware anyway, so I said, okay, we're going to run with this. But please, take it off and clean it. This thing was full of grime, full of grit, and he put a new brake pad on there with grease. So now you've got this grease.
What was the logic behind grease? Because that's a no. I don't understand.
It's an absolute no-no. And something I like to tell people is that, okay, hey, you're doing a brake job, and you're putting all this grease. Okay, so tell me, where do you get this inspiration to put this grease? Because let me tell you this: there are between 50 to 70 million cars produced on planet Earth every year. Okay, so let me ask you a question: how many do you think come equipped from the factory with grease anywhere near the brake pad, on the abutments, on the hardware, or anything like that? How many do you think that is? Well, they look at me and they're going, well, 0? I go, yes. So why the heck are you doing it on your brake jobs? Because you think you're solving a problem, but actually what you're doing is you're exacerbating a problem that you think you're solving, and you're making it worse.
I wonder if the logic for this is the thing about mechanics and technicians, whatnot, is they've been burned 1 or 2 times, like a repair didn't go well. Instead of studying, training, regrouping the right way, they realize they talk to another technician that says, no, try it this way. And then it becomes, it's like a
game of telephone in
like
kindergarten.
Not only, it's like a Yenta barbershop. Everybody's gossiping about, when the fact is, maybe that's not a good example, but I do see in my career, like from technician to technician, oh no, try it this way.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they got their knowledge, but until you seek out, because we talk about workmanship problems, not necessarily the craftsmanship of the component that we're installing.
Correct, workmanship. Yeah.
If we're not educating ourselves and really stepping back and getting this straight and skinny, by slobbering grease. Was he a cook? Maybe he worked a fryer? I don't know. What the?
Dynamic Friction has a bunch of videos on YouTube with
This is good to know.
about product or
Yeah.
installation tips and all that thing.
Yeah,
so
because we
something
will
you can
cover
grab.
some of this stuff, but I do recommend. Thank you, Lance.
Yep.
YouTube, of course, my podcast people, you can check it out. So going back, you witnessed this.
But wait, there's
mechanical
more.
This is a mechanical homicide going down.
Oh my God. It was a sight to behold. I wish I had my camera going so I could put this on YouTube.
We got
It was
grease. We got reused clips that are dirty.
So the set of pads that he installed was a set that we provide, because at DFC we're emulating what the OEMs have done, and not just in friction material, but also content. If there's any retraction devices on the pads, if there's multiple shims, which can aid in low-speed noise abatement. Okay, so in this particular application, it was a Hyundai or a Kia or one of those things, and we provide a set of pads with a multi-layer shim. In other words, it's got a rubber shim, and then there's a stainless steel cover. And with that stainless steel cover, we also provide a packet of grease. Not the grease that he used to grease everything else up. That was like axle grease, which was a whole other thing too. But a packet of grease that you're only supposed to put between the rubber shim and the stainless steel cover shim.
Not on the outer plate.
No, underneath it, you'll never see it. But it's,
why is that? Why we use it? Because this is a special formalized high temp silicone grease. What would you?
It's a moly disulfide, actually.
Okay.
Molybdenum disulfide. Yeah.
Why do we do that? Is that
so first of all, it's high temp because it is there at the brake pad. But what you're trying to do here, what the OEM intention was to have at the very end of the stop, the pad slip a little bit because there's a little bit of give inside the caliper.
Right.
So for that last 5 mile an hour, to zero stop, the pad's going to slip back and forth. So you want it to slip on the shim, and that eliminates that last bit of low speed squeak and squeal that could happen. So he did not install that, okay, but it gets better. So then I say, okay, well, we have to redo this. There were 10 techs around the car, and so I said, okay, let me.
Were they squirming too, or they agreeing?
Oh, everyone was shaking in their boots because it's like,
wow.
Luckily it wasn't them that got picked as the one who had.
Was this mechanic like defending? Well, why are you looking at me? This is the way it's done, or what? He just didn't know.
He didn't know.
He didn't know.
He didn't know. So we went into the trash, got the bag of grease that it came with, and then I had him take the pads off. So he took the caliper off, took the pads out, and I said, okay, now take the cover plate off and put the grease on. And he was kind of shaking, and he put the grease on because, he's under the gun, and people were filming, actually. And
mechanics don't like to be watched like that.
Right,
yeah.
No way.
Yeah, they don't like an audience. Most don't, yeah.
So then he put the cover plate on, but he didn't put the cover plate on flat because there's nubs on the pad that the shim has to go over, but he put it on crooked and didn't check his work even then, okay? So he put it on, and I saw that. He put it on crooked, and he put it back into the caliper. And I'm watching it, and before he started to put the caliper body on, I said, okay, stop right there. Did you see what you just did? No, I didn't see what I did. And then I showed him. So that car, even though he was trying to do the job right, that would have been a failure. That would have absolutely created a problem. So there's many steps that you got to go through to ensure a good brake job, and there's even more. This was a sliding type caliper, which was, the body is on guide pins. It slides on guide pins, and it didn't slide that smoothly. The car was about a 12-year-old car, and even though it's a California car where it doesn't see a lot of grit and grime, it's still, relatively old. And so I said, which I knew the answer, I said, but did you take the guide pins out and grease the guide pins? No. No one told me how to do that. Well, if you don't do that, that's a whole other problem that can it can cause.
There's so many steps to that. As a younger wrench back in 1990, 91, it was rear brake shoes with all the springs and the primary. It took me at least a few years to get that down. Front brakes seemed to be, and I remember this, it seemed to be once you got it, you got numb to it, you got overly fast with it, and attention to detail fell apart. Because what happens is, I did 5 cars like this.
You got away with it.
And got away with it. Now I have Miss Jones, and I got a service manager that's like, This is the second time, and I'm saying it's a quality issue. Talk about that. You visit a lot of shops. Do they look at you and say, "Hey, listen, we love your product, but this is not on us"? It's
and don't tell me how to do a brake job. I've been doing this 30 years. Blah blah blah. We hear that all the time.
God,
but But like you were starting to say, disc brake jobs seemingly so easy to perform, and in fact, in the old days, and we can get into a whole other discussion here. In the old days, brake pads, believe it or not, were far more forgiving because of the copper content, which now has been legislated out.
We got to talk about
pads.
that.
Yes, we do.
This is huge. You mentioned this during the break.
Beyond huge.
So let's back up. Copper is a part of the composition.
Used to be.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It was legislated out as of January 1st, 2025.
Why?
Why?
I mean,
I'll tell you why.
Give us this Godfather.
You want the
Speak
straight
to
and
us.
skinny here?
Yes, sir.
Back in 1995, a group of environmentalists were finding that the fish, I think the trout up in Northern California, were not spawning at the rate that they were normally spawning at. So they found that they had high levels of copper in their bloodstream, and it was affecting their
Reproduction
patterns.
Yeah,
okay,
right. Which ultimately is the whole chain of the kingdom.
You're talking about down, upstream and downstream if they're not there, and so forth. So, so there was fighting going on from 1995 to 2010, lawsuits and so forth. But by 2010, the automotive industry and the environmentalists came to an agreement saying, "Hey, okay, well, you guys agree to take the copper out of the brake pads. We'll give you X amount of years, and we'll come up with a system to identify the brake pads." So on every box of brake pads that you saw from, I'd say about 2012 on, they had a 3-leaf mark on the box. And 1 leaf filled in meant it had an unlimited amount of copper. 2 leaves filled in meant that it had 5% copper, which that legislation kicked in January of 2021. So from January 2021, you went from unlimited use of copper to now 5%. And I'll get back to what that means. And then again, the other part of the agreement, the last part of the agreement was that by January 2025, you got to take it out. So the thinking was, okay, well, we have now, basically 15 years to get our act together as an industry and take the copper out and find some suitable replacements make things work.
I got to interject. Why copper, though? What's the big deal with copper and brakes?
Copper is the magic material. It does everything. It aids in friction. It aids in heat dissipation. It aids in wear, noise, everything. One material does everything. Now, the downside of copper is that it's very expensive. Just to give you a quick sidebar on that, I mean, I had to make a head gasket out of copper in my shop, and a piece of copper 6 inches by 24 is $150. A piece of steel that size is $10. So that just gives you an indication of how much more that material is than steel. But it worked wonders and basically would make a brake job. You could do a pad slap with a high copper pad, and it's just absolutely idiot-proof.
See, this makes sense to me because I have a lot of my older generation folks that come in, and they do want to just pad slap.
Can't do that anymore.
And they say, well, Frank, I never had a problem.
Yep.
Now, maybe the last brake job was 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
But it was in their mindset, I don't need the rotor. I just throw pads on it. That makes sense. You just educated me on how I could present that.
Well, so let me give you some relative numbers because I just gave you percentages of what it had to go to, but I didn't give you where they were. So if you take an example of cars or vehicles that were extremely good in terms of brake performance and wear and noise and things like that, if you look at the benchmark really is the 2010 series of Chevy 1500 trucks. Those things would go 120,000 miles, 150,000 miles. They'd be half worn. It was amazing.
So true.
They would last forever.
So
they
true.
They worked well. The rotors were perfect.
I had a guy, he went to another shop and he was a good client. And I kept telling him, you don't need brakes. He says, I gotta need brakes. I got 90,000 on this truck.
You're right.
And
they're probably half worn. They're probably not even worn out.
I don't know what the other shop did, but yeah.
No more. Those days are over.
Those days are over.
So check this out. So that pad that they used, that GM used, had 20% copper content.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a very expensive material.
They were killing all those fish. The GM. Jesus.
Who knows how many fish GM killed?
I mean, can we get into like, we're not scientists, but was there some truth? Did the fish recover after? It's too early to say.
It's too early to say because it's only been a year since it's been completely outlawed.
So that started in California, Washington.
California expanded to Washington, Oregon, and then
It went. Then
It
we're
was like
like,
24 states, wasn't it? Dude?
about 24 states. Yeah,
Oh.
half the country adopted it, those rules. The other half didn't. So
they didn't blame plumbers. They blame mechanics for the copper concept.
well, okay, here's the other part of the story. So they were taking readings, okay, this environmental group was taking readings in the San Francisco Bay, right next to the San Francisco airport. Now, in the 90s, aircraft didn't use the carbon disc that they have today, which is like, they're like Formula One brakes. Back then, they used, guess what? Sintered copper brakes.
Wow.
So, every time those planes were landing, a huge plume of copper was emitting from the wheels, and then of course during a rain would go right there into the bay, right where they were taking their reading. So, there's an argument there as to, how significant was the contribution of automotive brakes relative to, aircraft brakes, especially we were taking.
And Frank, we call on a lot of shops, and guys have noticed, even with the loyal brand that they were buying, in the last 6 or 7 years. Sorry, I had to throw that in there for my son Jack. He'll be the coolest guy at school that I did the 6-7 thing on the radio. But
Oh God.
6.
no, but
God.
people have noticed
Oh.
My 5-year-old does that.
a problem with the noise in brakes, and they're like, "I've always used this brand. Like, what's changed?" So we've been out there all week this week, and it's constant.
I'll be honest with you. Very transparent. For me, brakes for years was like, oh, this is low risk.
Yep.
Do it right. Train the technician. Buy the quality. This car's not coming back. Fast forward at least post-COVID, and maybe
Absolutely post-COVID. Yeah.
post-COVID, like,
What's going on?
I mean, what's the ratio? Well, 1 out of 10, and if you're looking to come in my garage, I probably just made you not want to come in. I don't care. I'm being real. We'll own it. We like jump through hoops. I'll give you all the candy you want to eat, and I'll give you a rental car. We'll make it right. But this is a common theme, and maybe you listening can say, you know what, Frank? I have gotten my brakes done with my mechanic or dealership, and I have noticed, at least post-COVID, I had to take it back because I had noise. And assuming that the quality was there, assuming the workmanship was there, this could be now what is a nightmare for you manufacturers.
Absolute
Less
nightmare.
copper. So now the question becomes, Dino, what took its place? Copper.
There is, thus far, and I actually looked.
Secret ingredient. Come on, give it to no.
I even looked again last night to see what's going on. There are studies going on all over the world on really what to do, and there's no absolute solution. So right now, the short-term fix is to bring back steel again, iron powder, stainless steel swarf, and then bring back different types of graphites, aluminum, zinc, things like that. But there's no one single solution. Whereas copper performed, as I mentioned, all these different had all these different characteristics, all these positive characteristics. There's no one material that can replace that. So
What about the chamfers and stuff that you're doing?
I'll get to that. So
Yeah, okay, sorry.
So there's only so much you could do with materials, and the rest they're just doing with other tricks. They're trying to get the pad away from the rotor upon release of the brakes, for example, because without the copper, it basically lowered the temperature threshold of the pads. So they tend to now transfer material kind of unwillingly at a lower temperature threshold. So what that does is creates a situation where it feels like you got warped rotors, but what's happening is you're getting kind of premature friction transfer, and it's transferring unevenly because it can't be controlled. People think it's the rotors, and it's actually the brake pads.
I just had a redo.
Yeah.
Probably about 6 months after doing a brake job for a very good client, and we had pulsation.
Yeah, and by the way, this is happening at the OEM level. And by the way, I don't know of anyone with with a newer European car, and I know because I've had 3 in my family between my wife and my daughter and my son, BMW, Audi, Range Rover, all howling outside of the dealer lot.
Well, I will say,
and the dealers are saying, sorry, it's all we can do. The high performance brakes,
I
basically
have
live with it.
5 Series, all like my X3s, all the X Series. We're biting our nails because like there could be a risk that there's a noise.
Yeah, and so what's going on there, especially with the European vehicles? The European vehicles traditionally had very high performance brakes, so the engineers, I'm sure, don't want to let go of that. So now you've got very high friction levels in these vehicles, and excuse me. And so, not wanting to give up performance, they're risking further noise problems, and they're actually letting the noise problems happen. And by the way, I say noise problem. It's just a noise, people. It's not. It doesn't mean your brakes are unsafe.
Yeah, but if I paid $70,000,
if you paid $150,000, because these are happening on Range Rovers, autographs. I'm telling you,
autographs.
Or X7s, $100,000 vehicles, this types of things.
So I have to now, because I'm a process procedures guy, I've got to have a disclaimer. And short of saying operating as designed, you may now, after spending a lot of money with me, experience. I got to come up with something.
I'm just telling you, that's a reality today. And again, it's happening from OEM on down.
Do you think the chemists will? Because this got to be a big problem for
huge
OEs, aftermarket.
Massive. GM on the new 1500 truck, they've gone through 4 iterations since the new one came out in 2021
to try to solve that problem.
And so to solve it, now they're using very fancy shim designs, very fancy retraction devices in the hardware or on the pad itself. They're using fancy J-chamfers and slots and everything imaginable.
Wow.
So not just the chemists, but also the sound engineers are trying to tune those noises out.
The harmonics.
By whatever means possible.
Aiden, you got a question.
So you're saying that those sounds are still, they're factory kind of based right now with how they are. Why is that not common knowledge that at this point, because we've had maybe 1 or 2 years of it?
Nope. Traditionally, Dino can correct me if I'm wrong. If you got a brake job, not only am I going to stop beautifully, but they're going to be quiet.
Yes.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Now that noise is back, how is that not said when you buy a vehicle that
actually
that
if you go online and you look at BMW has a YouTube, Porsche has a YouTube that are basically saying, hey, we're high performance brands, and you may hear some brake squeals at a certain point in time. I've seen those two. I'm sure there are more, but they're starting to come out and say, hey, that's who we are.
Volkswagen as well.
All right,
Volkswagen
so
as well?
Performance,
So here's the phrase, and this is coming straight from BMW. BMW typically considers the brake squeal on new vehicles to be a normal characteristic of their high-performance braking systems.
There you go.
Often resulting from metallic pad compounds, moisture, road salt, or the lack of car. I would just say, ich sprechen Sie Deutsch, we have no more than the copper.
Tell it like it is, bro.
I mean, just speak to me. Well, it's frustrating for the consumer.
It is, especially when, for decades, they've never experienced this thing. And so it is a new phenomenon. People are working feverishly at it. Like I said, they're not just working on the friction material. They're working on backing plate designs and retraction devices, like I said earlier on. So it's a big headache.
I just read this is out of the brake report. It says that a class action, what's the date on this?
That's probably 2010.
Yeah, class act. Oh, okay. But I imagine
the Honda Accord?
This was against BMW North America. M compound brakes cause excessive brake squeak and are also dangerous.
No, they're not dangerous.
Well, this may be salacious or...
When did that come out?
This is from the brakereport.com. We're not knocking your brake report, but there was an article.
What year?
2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, August 8th. M compound brake noise suit filed against BMW.
Wow.
I don't know how legit that is. But there you have it. That makes a lot of sense. And to remind you, if you are a professional garage owner or service advisor or technician, we can sit, relax, and explore this beyond radio. Lance, tell us about the event tomorrow. I don't think it's too late if you're a shop owner, to show up, give the details. What's going on?
I apologize. I don't remember where it's at.
I do.
You do, though. You have that flyer over there? Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, I can just tell you it's
Yep.
the Italian Club.
Okay.
It's like 12th Street, south of Glendale. Beautiful facility. If you're Jewish, don't worry. We love you. Come on down. We know you got a little Italian in you. But the point is, this is a masterclass on all things brakes for the professional technician. It's tomorrow. You can get on to asaaz.org, the Automotive Service Association, or just hit me up at the garage. This is kind of last minute, 480-520-4538. Just call me. I'll get you details. The Italian Club tomorrow evening, like 6 o'clock. I think we're eating. And, Dino, you're going to go beyond what we can get done here in radio because this is a big problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is a big problem. All right.
I'll be up there for a couple hours.
He's
Yeah.
slated for hours.
2 hours, 120 minutes. We've got a few minutes left. One of the things I wanted to bring up as well, could you educate us on the fact that many vehicles now, we cannot resurface rotors like we used to. Everything is now it's just like pad, and I get pushback from the consumer, and some even think, Frank, you're just trying to make some extra money.
No.
Could you give us why on my newer vehicle, at least last 8 to 10 years?
So
Yeah.
so let me just say this: the packaging designs, the way it fits into the wheelhouse, the way it works with the suspension, everything's so much tighter than it was, let's say 10, 20 years. Well, let's say 20 years ago and beyond. So the tolerances are so much more precise now. So it used to be where you could have, let's say 5 or 6 thousandths run out on a rotor. Okay, you could easily turn a rotor and get that kind of spec. Now the OEMs are down to 1,000ths run out, and they're down to about 0.3 of a thousandths disc thickness variation, DTV. So there's no way you're going to get that kind of those kind of numbers turning it on your turning machine. At least I don't think you can. So, and they do that because, again, the packaging specs are tight. The caliper
the tolerances are just that much.
They're just so much tighter.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
when the pads release, they're not releasing back as far as they used to. So if you don't want it rubbing against the rotor, so because that can cause the problem where you're.
I have another question. I've
so.
seen an uptick in this symptom after doing a brake job. We got less than a minute. New brakes, pads, rotors. Client releases the brake pedal ever so slowly as she's coming. Well, she's braking. She comes to a stop slowly. It's my older crowd that's not hard on their brakes. Releases the brake pedal and hears a groan with brand new brakes. Didn't have that before.
Did it go away or no?
We burnished. And we could do a whole show on burnishing brakes. Just so you know, you have to break in the brake pad material. With the time we have, we can't get into that, but you're not done if you just did all the mechanical. You got to burnish the brake, and that's a procedure. You can find that at DFC YouTube. I'm sure you have that.
Was it a low metallic pad?
Yes.
Yeah, low mets do that.
Low metallic pads will do that.
That's called creep grown. That's what the industry calls it, creep grown. Every low met pad, again, from the factory, OEM factories, that's what they do. So I know what you're saying.
How do I get out of that? Do I buy
you can use a ceramic type material.
Ceramics.
But you lose some of the braking performance. But if you're telling me this person is not hot rodding the vehicle, what kind of car was it?
It's a little Honda Accord.
Was it a low met pad? You sure? I doubt it.
I may be wrong on the car.
Maybe semi-met.
Semi-metallic.
Okay, well.
Actually, I wouldn't have used a low met.
Yeah, you wouldn't have used a low met. Yeah,
Yeah.
but semi-met can do that as well.
It's just a new noise for her. She just spent money.
Yeah. So if you would have used a ceramic pad, that
upgrade to a ceramic.
That low-speed creep grown would have gone away.
Understood. No, a lot of people experience that.
Yeah.
Wow, the copper, man. Copper.
Copper.
Jeez, that's got to, if I was the scientist, you're calling your scientist in the middle of the night, hey, you got a resolution. You've been at this since last year. That's a big deal.
Well, the fish just weren't.
I know. That's a controversy there. We love our environment, but boy, oh boy. And we love our fish. I don't know what to say about that.
Right, it's a difficult one.
Dino Crescentini, co-founder, Dynamic Friction. You guys, for more details, give us a website.
DynamicFriction.com.
Excellent. You guys, for more details. We'll have you back. And if you're in Phoenix and want to get over to the Italian Club, Club, 12th Street in Glendale, tomorrow afternoon, evening, 6 o'clock. If you're a professional technician, head on over there. We'll feed you. We'll talk all kinds of brakes. Until then, never forget to hug each other and hug a mechanic.
Just like you, everything we do the same. Or is that true? Girl, I love you, Mary Jane. What would I do for without you? So put your love